Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
My camera on.
Morning, Ray.
Why do I keep thinking these meetings started at 5:30? That was terrible. I was in a store trying on gowns. I mean, I was doing absolutely nothing.
Oh. They used to be 5:30, and then we, I think, moved them to 5.
Is that what it is? I don't know why I can't get that out of my head. I've seen the presentation like 4 times.
Okay.
What time did the questions start?
Probably around 5:30, 5:40, 5:30-ish.
Okay, so I heard the questions. That for me. I really wanted to hear the questions and the feedback. So I heard that.
And we will post it as well, Ray, if you want to go back and listen.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So, yeah. How are you, Jeff?
All good.
He got a big smile on his face because it's Friday.
I was gonna say happy casual Friday, everyone.
Yes.
Not casual
Cheers.
for superintendents, but
Not
oh wow.
casual I try to go. I try to make up for every day, like t-shirt Thursday, no tie Tuesday. You know,
Yeah.
Friday I can't think of anything, so I just end up wearing my tie.
Oh, there you go. We got to do it.
Fun
sometime.
Friday. Fun tie
Yeah.
Friday.
Fun tie. Yeah, there you go. Fun ties.
Or fun socks or.
Love that. Yeah. Sorry, I just finished having a sneezing fit. I seem to be getting the autumn cold, or is it allergies? I don't even know. But I'm
Allergies.
sneezing, so.
I had that this morning. My daughter
Yeah.
looked at me like, "Are you okay?"
Who knows? I don't know. Could be a new pandemic for all I know at this point.
Oh, don't
Just
say that.
kidding. We're almost done with pandemics for a while. Let's hope. I guess we can give it a minute. I know that Matt has a work meeting that's likely to run over, so he's probably not going to join us. We may just be a little light today, light and quick. But
Rand's here. I know Chuck and Aaron cannot make it.
Okay.
Chuck just emailed us this morning. Aaron can't
No
make
worries.
Fridays right now.
yeah, I was actually looking at our planning meeting schedule, and I was like, maybe we should. I feel like we've gotten out of sync. Is it because we rescheduled our actual meeting? Because I mean, not that I have a problem with debriefing the day after, but I oftentimes feel like people are kind of like burnt on things the day after and don't necessarily have a lot of debriefing thoughts. So I was like, oh, we should probably stagger it so that, I don't know. That was just a thought I had.
Well, in the
Yeah,
next
that's
meeting,
Ooh, sorry, that's my dog.
They'll
That was
just sometimes
funny.
they made it every 2 weeks, so sometimes they'll just randomly fall right after.
Oh,
the
okay.
Thursday
All
meeting.
right.
Yeah.
So it was
So
just
it's not necessarily on purpose, but we can always
Okay.
cancel. Like I can go through and cancel any of the meetings that are right after the consortium meeting. Because I agree, it's probably a lot for.
Yeah, I think people are kind of like, I just talked to you yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
and it
which
looks
I
like
totally
the-
get. I totally get it. So, yeah, I guess we'll see. Yeah, let's just take a look at them and see if there's any that we can kind of re-stagger away or just skip a meeting. I guess. I don't know.
yeah, the December one looks okay.
Okay,
Right
good.
now it's December 9th we're meeting, it looks like, and then there's nothing the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured it just sort of got out of sync. Speaking of which, is this daylight savings weekend?
Yes.
Is it the morning of your show,
Yeah.
Ray? Are you gonna be ready? Is that gonna make us more tired or more rested? I always forget.
So
More
now-
tired.
No, I suffer from insomnia, so it makes no difference to me.
Okay. Well, that's good.
So, but an extra hour is always
Oh, it
good.
is an extra hour. I always have to
What I-
recalculate it in my mind.
Right. What I don't like about it is that it gets dark early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we
that's a
have
bummer.
kids that are getting home from school when it's dark out. It's dark when they get up in the morning and it's
Yeah.
dark outside.
Mhm.
That's not good.
Although, won't this make it a little lighter in the morning for some of the kids, or is it, at this point, it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I guess it'll make it a little lighter. depends on how early you got to get up.
Yeah, yeah, Sophie was always walking in the dark to her bus stop, I felt like. Okay, well, we'll get started. I think we probably got who we've got, and I think we'll be pretty quick today, because some of the questions I have, I think, I'll need to catch up with people offline. So just, you know, obviously we had a sort of a slim agenda, but kind of a hefty one at the same time last night, because obviously we welcomed the governor to make his presentation, and you know, just welcome any thoughts, questions, or next steps. At least in terms of what we think appropriate for Redding in relationship to that effort. They didn't ask. Well, I don't think that we offered. They didn't ask for us to sort of endorse it in any formal way at this meeting. We just wanted to share the platform so they could get the information out. And while a lot of people who are part of the consortium or generally attend, I think had already gotten that information. I think we had about 80 people online, 75 or 80 people. So we did have a nice turnout of folks to hear more. At the end, though, I was curious if there were folks who thought it was a presentation of a Redding project, and I was like, maybe people who hadn't come on at the very beginning. So that gave me a little pause, but I wouldn't be surprised if they pushed in the future for us to potentially, I know they've mentioned in the past, possibly wanting us to take a vote to support this concept, which we didn't bring up at last night's meeting, of course. So anyway, just any reactions, thoughts on that, would be happy to hear anything you think we as a consortium can do to be useful in this.
Well, I'll start based on the number of attendees. It appears that it is a topic of interest. But there were a lot of people on there.
Yeah.
I mean, we had that kind of participation a year ago, but it had started to wane. But it was very well attended, as you have already stated. I think that it would have been premature to ask for an endorsement. And then we have, you know, a fair number of superintendents and school leaders that are on the consortium. So, I mean, that would be very premature.
Well, and I would think a superintendent might simply want to go not voting. I don't know, Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, that's sort of a conflict of interest. I mean, maybe not you, because you're not implicated.
Not me, you know, directly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two ways, you know, conceptually, it's kind of like what we're attempting to do with Boost 22 on a grander scale. But
yeah.
So conceptually, I think, you know, you can get behind it, but like to actually, I don't know. I think it wouldn't really matter to me if the superintendent's voting as their own person, they're not representing the district. I think that people would be fine to vote with a clarifier, or some people's board might say like, stay away from it, and then they might have to abstain. So like it depends on the relationship the superintendent has with the board and what the ask for endorsement is. I think that's really would be key.
Okay. Yeah, so I definitely anticipate that happening. And my phone was blowing up. I was glad to see that people warmed up and shared some thoughts as we were going. And I was trying to manage sort of consortium members versus not, and still share some of those interesting questions. But what was I going to say about that? Oh, I mean, I was getting some folks who seemed very interested and possibly supportive, and then some people who had like some pretty serious misgivings and questions. So I don't know if there's some effort we can put around perhaps collecting questions or feedback from folks who maybe were still feeling it was too fresh for them to necessarily engage publicly with the question or with the presentation. And if there's a way we can sort of facilitate that in advance of asking someone to vote on something, because that's them and the more consortium members.
Right. Now we can reach out and see. Another thing is, I was listening to Jeff and saying some of this work almost aligns with some of the recommendations, or some of the recommendations that we said, that how can they use them as part of this to help bolstered even more. I mean,
Right. And I will say, I mean, you know, we heard initial version, we meaning Representative Chicocha and I think prior to Redding even existing, heard some versions of this. And, you know, we had some pretty strong feedback. And I will say, you know, I feel that I see it reflected. I feel like that was heard. And then even in the last couple of months, you know, when they've been starting to take it around to folks and took it to, you know, and Matt and I sat down with them, I felt like they further heard that. And we really were looking for ways to like leverage this to like deepen Redding recommendations in some way. You know, some of the things that we've been trying to fund and really ground, like, is this a fit for that? I don't entirely know. I mean, I think the resource question is, you know, they're not necessarily eager to make it something that's bringing a lot more resources to the table, which is probably exactly what we were asking for. So we'll see, but we're definitely trying to link it meaningfully to what we're trying to do without it, you know, it's not a Redding project, but we want to, you know, to not miss that opportunity. And so it seems like there's some room for that. And I think even ongoing, some room for feedback from consortium members to maybe continue to evolve some of those details.
Yeah, it's not, the proposal was not Redding Consortium initiated, but the mission, as we know, is to improve the outcomes, the learning outcomes, and the set of conditions for the most vulnerable. And so to start to, I think it's going to be really important to think through how to keep the commonalities common and articulate them. But it, you know, for people that are not intimately involved, it could get a little muddy.
Yeah, well, and I think, and this reminds me of conversations we had sort of in the WEIC days, or things that started to shift towards the end of those days. It's like, I think we bring together stakeholders, we generate ideas, we try to get things done legislatively and through the budget. And then we're working, I think, to try to be a good force for accountability and follow through, but we're not service providers. We're not the practitioner. I mean, a lot of us are practitioners, but Redding is not going to be implementing services. And this is obviously an entity meant to offer a framework for that work to actually be done. So, I mean, I think there are definitely complementary things happening here. I mean, there are thought leaders, obviously, in a governance role in the design that they presented last night, but I do see ways that these two things can and should fit together. And I agree, they certainly shouldn't be working at cross purposes in terms of values and goals.
So the questions that were raised were right on point, and I believe Jim said that they've done like over 40 presentations. Did I hear him say that?
I think so, yeah. Small meetings, and I think most, like meetings of small groups.
So my comment is to advance the concept either in this form or some other alternative form. The unknowns, there's too many unknowns.
Yeah, there are a lot of details that have, I mean, it's a lot more fleshed out than it has been in the past, but it's not maybe there yet, I guess, you know, for based on some of those questions. So I think, yeah, to our point earlier, Kelly, about kind of polling members to see if we can get some more of those questions on the record in comments. And I know that I offered the governor's office the recording and the chat transcripts. So they could also make sure that they're working from that.
Yep, I'm going to share that today.
Part of me feels like that we would be best suited, or maybe best suited, to get involved after January, because that's when they're seeking board approval, right? Like, I don't know how far out in front of it the consortium wants to get because of some of the implications of the Redding Consortium name and what it what it brings to the table, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent with the general public or people who are going to in the community, the local community, whether they love it or hate it, right? Like some part of me wants to say, like, yeah, let's offer them venues, but to get behind it or to get too embedded in it makes it become too much Reading like, which kind of can be maybe hindrance, as opposed to the governor is clearly investing his energy in this. He's staking he's putting he's jamming the stake in the ground, saying, I'm doing this. So like he's going to take this across the line into January to those school boards to vote. After that, that's when I think the things that you're talking about, like demonstrating that some of our work blends, is probably, to me, would be more strategic. That's just me as a superintendent living in the space. I mean, I could be way off base on that.
No,
but
actually, I like that.
I feel like he's put the ball. I mean, he's a big football guy, right? So he wants to carry the ball on this one. So in my mind, let's just block and just stay out of the way. If you use that terminology, and then see what happens in January.
Yeah. And then I wonder, because I think this does fit with the values of the consortium potentially now over the holidays. I don't know what our bandwidth would be, but so I think, I would love for us in some way, and it doesn't have to be like an extensive capacity eating way necessarily, but to position ourselves not as, okay, we're going to carry the governor's water on this one, we're going to present it, we're going to endorse it, we're just going to be there, as opposed to, I think, what we say we're about, which is being on behalf of the stakeholders in the community in order, sort of serving to elevate questions and concerns and, be as much a space for that piece, that helping to flesh out the details that people have questions about. Which I think is a service to the governor's office, certainly, but I think, makes us less just sort of, sort of serving the project as opposed to serving the ultimate interest of Wilmington families.
I agree in principle with Jeff's suggestion. I do think it is really going to be very important to articulate the complementary role and the distinctions ahead of those board meetings. People, we have to anticipate those questions. People are going to make assumptions that you want to dispel from the very beginning, and add value by helping players and stakeholders to understand how, the distinctions between the roles and the interrelationship between the roles, so that people don't spend a lot of time, assuming that this is, signed, sealed, and delivered from this group.
Right.
And the things that have already been said. I think it's important for the Reading leadership to get ahead of that.
So we need to message that.
Yep. When the boards have to make a vote, the boards are going to be looking, I hope, if they're interested in community engagement, they're going to be looking to hear what other people's positions are. So we can avoid it, but eventually it's going to come to that.
Yeah, so we need to be anticipating how to message around that. So maybe, and I would welcome any input on what to you that ought to sound like, but I think Matt and I.
Well, we're gonna know next week, right? Christina's up first. If there's ever going to be food for fodder, we're going to hear it right there, right? And then Brandywine and Red Clay are next. So we got 2 weeks. Like those board meeting presentations, that's going to answer the question that Ray just put out there of the message that needs to come out, right?
Okay.
Like I think those are going to be, that's going to give the consortium leadership an idea of where this stands in that space.
Okay, so tune in for the board meetings and then position ourselves based on what we hear. Okay, that sounds very wise to me. It would help. It's definitely helpful rather than us trying to just pull something out of the air and putting it out before that next presentation and ending up being totally tone deaf somehow. I think that actually is really smart and strategic. So, so let's make sure we get that on our calendars. And yes, IPA DSU team should attend the meetings and take notes, and Matt and I will do our best to be there as well. And And I think to that point, I think I did say that we were going to share, I think, with the consortium, those upcoming opportunities to listen in on what was going on. I don't know that we need to do that on social media as opposed to just like to our internal mailing list.
Maybe we can make it a dual effort, like, hey, thanks for coming,
Mhm.
you heard the presentation. Please send any questions back to us. Either send
Right,
them
and
to
if you want to learn
Haley,
more, here's the
Oh,
opportunities.
and then here's
make
where.
sure- Right, the governor's Wilmington Schools proposal. So that sounds good. Maybe we can draft something on that we can get out before the Christina meeting. And
Monday.
then we'll just let's see Haley and Kelly if we can set up a meeting with you guys, well, and Shelley and me and Matt, so we can maybe debrief after the board meetings and figure out how we want to message. But we probably need to get that on the calendar now so that we don't forget. Okay, that sounds good.
I also think that the teacher voice should be front and center in terms of
Yes.
the response to because I don't hear people saying absolutely not. I hear people saying, hey, we're struggling and we are really struggling.
That was starting to,
you know, as educators.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, that was
and it's
starting to
true.
come up more and more in the
and
chat.
Yeah, and the timeline, you know, we can do a lot of things, but we can't change time. So either we got to approach it differently, because the time, you know, we're really. Aren't you getting ready to start planning for your next school year now, Jeff? And right in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, January 22, you start staffing for 22, 23. I mean, we're
Right.
already in the preliminary. The 30 count just got certified last night or yesterday. We're just getting the reports today. So essentially everybody, this year's in the books, and
Right.
everybody's starting to put the pieces together for next year in
Right.
January. That's almost late in some cases.
It's kind of like
So
the budget timeline, I guess, right? Like the budget starting, the governor's budget's coming together now, and then that.
Yeah, I mean,
You know.
we're already, you know, we'll be building our projections for next year off of this year's enrollment and where we are, and you know, the PD plans, and schools will be looking at student data, whether it's not smarter, but like their own internal data metrics that they use to drive PD. That, you know, discipline data will drive SEL, mental health data will drive that. Like that's all happening right now. To your point, Ray, for next school year.
Yeah. Whew. All right. Well, this is helpful, at least for our position as Redding. We know, you know, what we need to be paying attention to, and then, you know, having that sort of, I guess, December messaging after we hear what we hear at the board meetings. I think those are all great perspectives. That's really helpful to me. I think Matt will be glad to hear it too. So I think we're good on that. The other thought, this is just kind of a team task, but you know, we did talk, I don't know whether people understood it besides those of you that we send email to, but about the budget asks. And so I know that we were, I think if the team, as we support the meetings, you know, same team member can sort of help with that. I know, I think in the email we put what, like 150 word sort of case for moving anything that we funded one time, I think, into the ongoing budget is basically what we're hoping we can convince agencies to do.
So you just want, like, here's the case to take this chunk, whatever we said it was for when we made the recommendation to move it. And it's anything that was in the supplemental, correct?
Yeah, I think our goal for this year, from my perspective and the conversations Matt and I had, would be to get to I don't know that we're going to get 10 million more dollars. I don't know. Let's see. We're not there yet. But, you know, especially because some things haven't fully rolled out. But I think it would be a great goal and accomplishment to move more things into the permanent budget.
May I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
So based on my recollection, the Redding Consortium budget proposal was presented to the governor last session, and the governor elected not to include in the governor's budget.
Yes.
And so is it implied that this time that that this is going to be considered for inclusion in the governor's budget?
I mean, we're going to try again and possibly try to leverage this Wilmington Schools project as a way to also make that case. You know, we did, without the governor's recommended budget, get 3 million into the budget. And we want to get more. I mean, it would be great to have the governor making the case for that in the governor's recommended budget. And we are going to try again, but I don't know if I have any real sense of the likelihood of that. I think there's a sense of, you know, there's a lot of competing people making appeals to the governor's recommended budget who I think they prefer not to necessarily pick favorites.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So that's probably, as we heard from Secretary Geisenberger, like a pretty urgent task, like within the next, bless you, Kelly, within the next week or two, or within the next 2 weeks, I think, before we're at the tail end of them making any adjustments to their internal agency budgets.
So just, can I really quickly just go over the ones that were in each, just to make sure we're all on the same page? Because I know when I was messaging with mine, the wraparound services, was that one time? So I have it that it was in the budget bill.
That's a good question. The 2.3 of the pre-K is in the permanent budget, and a portion of, I'm going to say the PD.
It was the PD.
And
Yeah.
so everything else.
Okay. Okay.
So each of these state agencies present budgets to the Office of Management and Budget, right?
Yeah, starting Tuesday.
So I think that the part of the homework has to be what is already in there and what is missing.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
it's in order to be coordinated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those presentations start up this week, so that information will be available.
And can't they just send us the information without us having to sit through those 4-hour meetings?
Good question. Well, you can skip the meeting and then ask for the documents, I guess. I don't know if they're, I assume they must be out already.
The documents are not available to the public before the hearings.
Well, they should be within the week, just by FOIA.
Oh.
Kelly, I'm looking at you. Sorry, no one can tell I'm looking at you. No, I was just looking at you because I feel like you're the masterful one on going in there and being like, yep, they've got the right documents up already. I don't know.
Sorry, what was that? I was reading something.
For these upcoming hearings starting on the 8th, do we know where to find all those documents?
Yes. Actually, I have, here is where, put it in the chat, sorry.
Agency budget presentation.
Where you can see the public hearing calendar, any documents, it says, and then if you go to the Delaware public meeting calendar, the links and everything should be there for each day.
Yes. So. Thank you for that.
So you see, if you click on the
yeah.
public
Okay.
hearing documents, the narratives and things are being, looks like they're being posted as they get them.
Okay. They're maybe
Right.
not completely up, but they're coming.
So, and not just the state agencies. I know I said that because that was top of mind, but I'm looking at Dr. Rouser. I mean, they just got a huge investment. And so I think that we should be talking with her as well, because we don't want to make an ask and people say, well, it's already included here, or we already made that investment there. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Right. I mean, and I think that is especially relevant in the sense that, yes, there's some things that people will see as being duplicative. I think we need to make sure that, you know, our investments are very targeted, and some of those broader ones obviously are not to Wilmington students. And so I think it's an important distinction that if we are trying to identify certain, you know, certain budget lines that are for Wilmington students and schools, that we, you know, maintain that, because even though we might see a giant investment for the entire state, that doesn't mean it's sort of going towards our goals necessarily. So, I mean, I just think we do need to, yes, get that clarity.
Right. Great point. Stay pointed, stay focused.
Mhm. All right, so good. Thank you for that link, Kelly. Very helpful. And I see the Department of Ed isn't up there yet, but hopefully soon. And we'll keep an eye on it. And okay, so anything else on either of those questions? I don't know that we probably need to do work group updates since we're pending meetings. So you guys are meeting on Monday. And settlements meeting on my mom's birthday. And then I think what we need to do, again, this is a comment towards the team, is I think Matt and I need to probably just do an independent check-in with educators and governance leadership. I feel especially urgent around that, around governance, because I really want to kind of get a solid sense of what we think our path forward is on what we've indicated with the redistricting and that kind of thing. And so that's feeling very diffuse right now. So we need to get some substance and solidity there. And then with educators, you know, really just a matter of making sure they feel a comfort level with how we're working out some of the RFP questions moving forward. So we probably need to get some independent meetings on the calendar for that. If you guys can help us do that. And I think that's it. Cool. All right, I don't think we have any public today. So we're good. Everyone have a great weekend. And see you maybe, well, we'll in various configurations, see you in meetings, see you in conversations, see you at school board meetings and such. All right, so have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care,
You too.
everybody.
Bye.
See everybody.
See ya.